without further delay, I'm really excited to turn this over to Jackie. So Jackie, thank you so much for joining us, and please take it from here.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you to everyone who came to this workshop. I'm really excited to teach you all about how to increase your engagement on social media. Just pull up my presentation here. I will quickly recap what we're going to cover, just so you know some of the takeaways that are going to come from this presentation. Let me see here. Perfect. Move this out of the way. All right, should be good. And we'll make sure that you get access to the slides, so don't feel like you have to copy and paste anything. We'll make sure that you have access to that afterwards. So this is a workshop, 45 minutes on how to create engaging social media content. I can talk about social media for hours, but unfortunately we don't have that much time today. So I did tailor this presentation and packed it with what I thought was the most essential information for all of you. If anyone wants to follow up with me after and has additional questions, I will leave my information at the last slide. Connect with me on LinkedIn and we can chat. But please, make the most of this and feel free to ask questions in the chat if you have them. All right, so first, just a little bit about me. So I am based in Boston. I'm a freelance digital marketer and brand strategist, and I also teach at General Assembly, Artisans Asylum. I've taught classes at Harvard, Brown University. So I'm really passionate about what I do and working with small businesses of all sizes and levels, from consulting to full social media management. That's just a little background about me. These are some of the takeaways that you're going to get from this workshop. You probably saw this when you registered for the workshop, so I'll give you a glimpse of the social media landscape. We can't cover all social media channels, unfortunately, it's just not enough time, but I will give you some tips on how to maximize and leverage each channel. We'll talk a little bit about metrics and insights, how to find those reports, and also how to create content that really gets your followers excited about your brand and wanting to engage. All right, so before we dive in, I do have a fun little quick quiz to test your knowledge. So everyone who's in here, feel free to put the answers in the chat just for fun. But let's just test what you know already. Okay, so which percentage of American consumers purchased a product after seeing a brand's social post? Is it 25%, 45%, 76%, or 93%? So put your answers in the chat box. Have a lot of people saying 25%. Wow. Okay. Guess what? It's actually 76%. It's almost 3/4. It's over 3/4 actually. Purchased a product after seeing a brand's social post. So if that is not convincing enough for you to be on social media, I don't know what is. Next question. Which percentage of customers only trust brands if they have interacted with them on social platforms? So this is a really important question. Is it 10%, 17%, 24%, or 39%? Trust is a really big component of social media. A lot of people saying B, D, a lot of people saying 39%. You are correct, it is 39%. So a very high percentage of people will only trust brands if they've interacted with them on social media. Okay, 80% of businesses consider what the most important metric? Number of followers, total reach, engagement, or promoted posts? It's the last one. See a lot of people saying engagement. Oh, you guys are good. It is engagement. It absolutely is engagement, and I cannot emphasize that this is the most important part of having a social media presence. Engagement is everything. All right, so let's dive into the actual workshop here. So I'm going to quickly go over the social media landscape. This information is meant to be a resource for you, so I'm not going to read through the slides, but you will have access to this afterwards, and I highly encourage you to look back at it. All right. So in terms of monthly active user insights, right? These are the main social media platforms that we have right now, with the exception being TikTok, which is newer. I'll talk about that in another workshop. So if you are interested in that, we can connect afterwards. But for the most part, these are the top 5 platforms right now. So in terms of user base, obviously Facebook is still number one. Recently they acquired Instagram, so that's another 1 billion users that are definitely a different demographic as well. And we'll talk about the different user bases on each platform. LinkedIn, obviously more geared towards professional networking. Twitter, definitely more of like a listening tool. This is the one feature of Twitter that I encourage everyone to use it for, Twitter search. If you remember anything about Twitter, remember to use Twitter search as a listening tool to find out who's talking about your brand. And then the last one is Pinterest. Not as much engagement happening on this platform, but still relevant, especially if you are a consumer product business. So keep in mind that Pinterest is also an e-commerce channel that you can make sales from. So I'm going to skip through this. We're just going to quickly go through each channel just so everyone has a visual and can kind of put a visual to the channel. So this is Facebook, obviously number one, many different features launching every day. I'm not sure if you guys heard, but Mark Zuckerberg just announced that they are actually working with Shopify so that businesses will be able to create their own stores on Facebook. So that's something to watch and pay attention to. I assume that they're going to have many different features and capabilities, and because they have the user base, like the highest user base, it's definitely something that you may want to consider. In terms of audience, Facebook has changed a lot over the last decade, for sure. It used to be really popular when I was in high school, and now, my generation, the millennial generation, has kind of trickled through like to Instagram. But for everyone just to understand how the platform has changed, the fastest growing user base on Facebook at the moment is the senior group. So 60 plus is definitely like really high. So you'll see here 50 to 64, 68% of the platform right now. So if that is your demographic, you definitely want to be active on Facebook. Let's move over to Instagram. So Instagram is a really fun, lighter platform, very visual heavy. This platform is very focused on photo and video content. It's definitely geared towards engagement. So it has the highest engagement with the exception, again, of TikTok. So there's a lot of different features and ways that you can interact with your audience on Instagram, and people are following brands. This is really important to know with Instagram. 90% of users on Instagram are following business accounts. So if you aren't currently on there and you are targeting millennials, which you should be, then you need to have a presence on Instagram. This is also just a quick breakdown of the user demographics. Okay, LinkedIn. So as I mentioned, think of LinkedIn as almost like Facebook for networking professionals. The expectations of this platform are a lot different from other social media channels, and you want to remember that. This is a really important tip that everyone should take note of. Each channel has their own user expectations. So there is no, one piece of content fits all. You really need to tailor your content just like you do on your email mailing list. When you're segmenting your list, you need to segment your content on each social media channel. So with that in mind, LinkedIn, just to remember, people are on there for job opportunities. They're there to learn. Content marketing is huge on LinkedIn. So if you have anything that you can educate your audience about, that is a place to do it. Career opportunities, company culture, sharing anything useful about updates about your company or new members of your team, this is the place to do that. Okay, Twitter. So Twitter is obviously like more bite-sized content. You only have, I believe, 280 characters, but there are still a lot of really valuable features on this platform, although the engagement is not as high. And it is very tough, I'm not gonna lie, to grow a following on Twitter because the engagement is not as high as like Instagram and Facebook. It's a great news source channel. So when I mentioned earlier, using it as a listening tool, when you're on Twitter and you see that search bar at the top of the screen, I really challenge you, if you're looking to get the most value out of this platform, think about what it is that your customers would be searching for to find you, and type that into the search bar and then insert yourself into that conversation. Send them a tweet. If you're searching, like best ice cream in Boston, and you see like the last couple tweets, someone recently 5 minutes ago was like, looking for the best ice cream in Boston, anyone have any recommendations? And you're a new ice cream shop, you can just send them a tweet and say, hey, we just opened, a new shop in downtown Boston. Here's a code for $1 off your first scoop. We hope to see you soon. And you just generated your own lead with $0. It takes very little time to do something like this, but it's a very powerful tool for building lead generation. So this is just some breakdowns about the audience on Twitter here. I will say that it is definitely heavy in the media world. So there's a lot of journalists on there. There's a lot of people in PR. So if you're trying to stay up to date with people who are talking about your business, you need to be active in making sure that you're watching the content on Twitter. The last one, which we're kind of going to breeze through, is Pinterest. Because it's not as engaging of a platform as others, you don't have to be as heavily active on it because people are sharing your content, right? So if you are, a clothing store in Boston and you have all of your products in a Pinterest board by category, other people can pin, your pins on their boards, and they can also click on them and purchase your products directly if you've activated that feature. So again, if you are a consumer product business and you have the team and the time to invest in Pinterest, I encourage you to at least give it a chance and see if you get any momentum. I'm sure most of you know, Pinterest is pretty heavy with women. A lot of brides to be and people that are, newlyweds or moving into new apartments. A lot of moms that are looking for new recipes. These are all a lot of the core customers that are using Pinterest. So just something to kind of keep in mind. So I have also a little chart here that you can use as a guide to go back to later, but just some of the main purposes and user expectations. So if you're ever oh, I'm not sure what kind of content to post on this channel, always go back to this because this is what people are there for and you want to make sure you're delivering on those expectations. Now, I wanted this workshop to be relevant, so I'm going to give you some examples of how businesses are using social media right now during COVID-19. Now more than ever, we know it's incredibly important to be connected on social media. The businesses that didn't, take the time to invest in building an audience and relied on having a brick and mortar store, they're currently the ones that are really struggling hard right now. And it's very hard to build an audience from zero. So I'm going to show you some of the ways that businesses have really leveraged the COVID-19 crisis on social. Okay, so I wanted to have some Boston businesses on here. So first off, Venture Cafe. Fantastic work they've done. Obviously, it's a physical space and they have a lot of in-person events. It's also a really great resource for local entrepreneurs and businesses to connect. And because they're not open right now, they have switched all of their formats to obviously virtual formats. So when I was on LinkedIn a couple months ago, I saw that they were having a networking event. It was a virtual networking event. And I'm not sure if any of you guys have checked this out, but it's incredible. They've actually have a visual that makes you feel like you're in a conference room, and each table has little chairs and you can click on the chairs to join that table and see who's there and learn more about what their roles are and what industries they're in. So this is their way of keeping in touch with their audience and staying connected. Next, so skincare brands right now. There's one brand that I follow called Sunday Riley, and in order to not only stay connected to their audience, but to show their social impact and efforts with the COVID-19 crisis, they have donated a large amount of their products to the nurses that are on the front lines. So you can see here, they shared it in one of their social posts, #TogetherApart. It's just a really great way to show that not only are you keeping in touch with your audience, but that you're actually addressing the situation and that you are doing your part in making, a difference. Okay. The next brand is Touchland. So this is actually a brand that was really lucky to be in the right place at the right time. So they are a vegan hand sanitizer. And as you can imagine, their business completely blew up overnight. And they were on Instagram, and because their products target millennials, their products sold out practically overnight, and they have formed new relationships with new retailers, and they've been covered by every media outlet you can imagine. I encourage you to look at their content on Instagram just for ideas on how they're connecting and engaging with their audience. It's incredible. Okay, the next one, because I wanted to feature another Boston business that really inspires me, especially right now. So a restaurant in Southie called Fox and the Knife. This business has launched 2 huge initiatives in such a short period of time under so much pressure that they're going to be able to continue after this passes to use as other ways to generate revenue. So this is the chef right here. She obviously, with the restaurants closed, only being able to do takeout and delivery. Their restaurant is definitely more of like a high-end restaurant. So what they did was they make their own pasta, they make their own sauces in-house. They started packaging them to actually be sold to their customers. So you can actually buy the pasta and buy the sauces in containers and make it at home. So they offer both options. It's called Fox Pasta and then Get Foxy at Home. And they're super active on social media. The chef is very active and they're always reposting anything that their customers are sharing. So I highly encourage you to check them out as well. These are just some examples of ways on Instagram that people have shared their account. Okay, so let's move into how to increase engagement. So one of the most important things in 2020 and beyond is you need to include video content in your strategy. It is something that is absolutely critical. I promise you, mobile video traffic is increasing by 100% year over year. It has the highest engagement. You have more retention with people remembering what you're saying, like what your messaging is in your advertising, higher conversion rates. And just across the board, it's the most successful format that's working across the board right now. So if you're not currently using social video content, make that your #1 priority. I'm gonna show you some different ways that businesses are using it right now. So this is just kind of going off of what I said. Higher click-through rate, higher conversion rate than static posts and just linked text combined. I'm sure many of you have noticed on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, live content is huge. It's trending. And this is a perfect example right now, this workshop that we're having. It has the higher engagement than traditional video content. You can see here, Facebook live videos produce 6 times as many interactions, and they get 10 times more comments than regular videos. This is an example.
Hey, Jackie.
Yeah.
Oh, I just have like a really quick question as well with the audience. Like, do you happen to know what the optimal length for a social media video would be? Like, which time would perform better? Like, is it 30 seconds, 2 minutes? Do you happen to have any insight into that?
Yeah, so typically like engagement drops the highest after 2 minutes. My personal recommendation is you should keep your content 1 minute and under if possible, unless it's live. That's the only exception. If you want to have a higher like view rate where people are actually watching the entire video, try your best, unless people are aware it's a tutorial or like something like that, keep it 1 minute and under. And if it's an ad, even less, 15 seconds and under. Okay, so
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. We're gonna go over some other different ways to create engagement. So feed content. This is content obviously that shows up on a user's feed, whether it's Facebook, it's Instagram. This is the content that you are constantly scrolling through. This is an example of like some posts that Time Out Market Boston uses, and also Marielle, which is a restaurant that's in the financial district, both really successful at using Instagram to engage with their audience. I have some just like clips of some comments that people have used to tag their friends and family underneath. So again, like this is really powerful because they're creating free exposure for the brand, right? And that's the idea. When you have content that people like are interested in, are inspired by, or entertained by, or find valuable or useful, they're gonna wanna share it with their friends and family, and you're tapping into their network. So that's really powerful. This is what a survey has shown what people want from feed content. So they want to see brands post content that's fun, that's real, and that's creative. 3 things that you definitely don't want to ignore. So like let your brand's personality shine through, no matter like, you know, what that is, if it's more like corporate or if it's a little bit looser and kind of like friendly of a voice. You really want to stay true to your voice and give your audience like a consistent story. Okay, so I'm gonna go over some of Instagram's features because like I mentioned, this platform has massive engagement features. And stories is the #1 place that you should be focusing your attention on, because that's where people are focusing their attention on Instagram right now. And the Instagram stories format, which is kind of like Snapchat basically. Instagram basically took Snapchat's entire like format and made it stories. So that way people wouldn't have to flip between Snapchat and Instagram. Now you get this, all of this in one place. And now TikTok has taken the stories format and basically made it their app. So stories is basically what I call throwaway, disposable, more candid content. It's less, like editorial. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is like the behind the scenes and fun part of like your brand and giving people an inside look of what you're about. Now, when you're in stories, if you swipe up, you're going to see all of these different features here. There's a ton of them, and Instagram keeps adding more. The ones that I would personally recommend paying attention to is the poll feature, which allows you to actually poll your audience on certain questions. So say, for example, like you're considering launching like a new service or a new product and you're comparing 2 different versions, you can actually poll your audience and ask them what their thoughts are. There's also the quiz feature if you want to have a little fun with your audience and let them get to know you. You can tag your location if you have a physical location. You can at other accounts if you're doing like a partnership. You can also use hashtags as well, and there's countdowns. If you have a big event coming up, people can actually like click it and set reminders. There's a ton of different features. I encourage you to look at all of them and experiment with them. But one thing to remember though is that stories, I promise you, has way more ability to convert than just content on your feed. You're spending more intimate time with your users behind stories than you are in your feed, and there's way more attention being paid in Instagram stories. One other thing I'm gonna mention about Instagram before we move on is the highlights section. So these are all these little bubbles that you see when you're going to a user's account. There's major potential for you to leverage this. People are basically creating little like a little navigation kind of bar that you have on your website and breaking that into different categories on their Instagram highlights. So sharing your products and services, sharing new job opportunities if you're hiring, a little bit about you, about your founder, your team, your customers, any testimonials people have written about you. There's tons of different ideas that you can implement using highlights, but it basically should give a new user who's never heard about you, never been to your page, the ability to learn as much as they need to know before actually like reaching out with an inquiry to learn more. You should give them enough information that they can discover through your highlights. Okay, let's look at just some quick case studies here. So Ellevest, which is a investment fiduciary that is geared towards women, they use Instagram. They created a campaign to basically spotlight their top users. So the people that are actually like investing with them. So they have all these little profiles they created on their Instagram and Facebook accounts. And not only that, but they use that mention tag, which I showed in a few slides before, and they actually tag that user's account, which means that that user is going to get an alert on their account, and then they're able to share it with their audience. So imagine at scale what that looks like how many people you're going to end up reaching by spotlighting your core customers. Everyone should definitely be focused on developing a strategy to basically spotlight their best customers, because they are going to be the ones that vouch for you, and they are going to be your biggest cheerleaders in sharing your message with their audience. These are just some examples of how banks are communicating and engaging through Instagram stories. As I mentioned, the poll feature is a really valuable tool. This is just some kind of fun ways that Bank of America and Ellevest are using it. One other tip that I would recommend for you is using a hashtag channel. So all this really means is creating a hashtag that no one is currently using and making it your own. So with Instagram, for example, if you search hashtags and you come up with your own and no one's using it, you'll notice that there's going to be a follow button. That means that if you use that hashtag channel and you start tagging all of your content with it, only your content is going to show up in that hashtag channel. And now your users can follow your hashtag. So they're going to get alerts every time you post new content As you may know, the algorithm is changing a lot and it's more difficult to get your content in the eyes of your customers. So it's really important to leverage any feature you possibly can. I encourage you to use this hashtag across all of your social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm actually going to skip through this. I just have an example if you guys want to go through this presentation later on how I used a hashtag channel for one of my clients to increase their following by 32%. And you can actually go through this when you get the copy of the deck. I want to move on here because I know that we're almost at 10:30. So tricks to drive some more conversions. Before we dive into this part, Stephanie, can you just put up the first poll on which social media channel people are currently using the most? Just curious to get an idea.
Yeah, definitely. So the poll is launched. We're going to give you guys 15 seconds to fill it out. So get those answers in. I would definitely say, like, just looking at this, I'm like the most active on Instagram. I'm not going to lie. Like, that's what I do every single morning and night, just like creeping through everything.
No, I am too. I will say that I've become like a lurker on TikTok right now. So I'm not as active on it, but I am watching everyone else's content.
I love it. I would definitely agree with that for Instagram. Okay, I gave them 30 seconds. So the polls are closing in 3, 2, and 1. Perfect. Awesome. Sharing the results. And it looks like Instagram is the winner right there.
Yeah. All right. So it looks like LinkedIn. So I assume there's a lot of B2Bs in here. And then Facebook, not a lot of people on Twitter and TikTok yet, which is pretty expected. That's awesome. Thank you guys for sharing that. Let's move right on through the rest. They have a lot of information in here. Okay. Number 1 tip, make sure you are actually engaging and not just posting content on social channels. Okay. It's important for not only social proof, but to remind your followers that you're there and there's a human behind the account. They want to engage with you. These are social media platforms. You need to make sure that you are engaging with your users and that you are also engaging with other accounts. You want to make sure that you make this a priority, whether or not you spend 5 minutes a day doing it. Be responsive, make sure that your users know that there's someone there that's gonna be, able to answer their questions and inquiries. It's really just an important tool. The next thing is sharing content, not just once. So if you are on multiple channels, there's nothing wrong with sharing content from one channel to another if it's appropriate. Like I said, if it abides by the user's expectations on that channel, go for it. Just make sure it's in a format that user wants to receive it in. So, if it's on Twitter, and you are, marketing like a message on Twitter and you're putting it on Instagram, make a graphic with text that basically says what that tweet says. So make sure that it's in a format that user is expecting. I'm going to show you a really great platform at the end of the presentation on how to set up a schedule, because I know this is the #1 challenge for a lot of you guys. You never have enough hours in a day. If you're running a business, you're managing teams, social media really is a full-time job, and this is why people are doing it full-time. But I understand if there's a lot of people out there that can't afford to hire someone, you are doing it yourself. There are tools out there that can help you. One other thing I want to mention is, yes, it's okay to share content from other accounts. Should that be the majority of your content? No. I like to follow an 80-20 ratio. 80% of your content should be your content, original content, along with user-generated content. So this is content that your users and fans create on your behalf. But the rest of the 20% should be focused on content that's from other accounts. The last thing you want is for your social media channel to come off as a collage of other people's content. You want to create original content and incentivize people to share your content. So just something to remember. Okay, last thing. I'm going to show you briefly where to find insights on Instagram. You can find these reports anywhere on any social media channel though. But use the data. The data tells you a story on what's working and what's not. It tells you a story on what people like and what they don't, and which types of content are performing the best. There are ways to sort content when you're looking at the reports. I encourage you to sort it by highest engagement, because engagement, again, is the most important metric to measure. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to which posts are generating the highest engagement. Okay, so insights here. So this is the most powerful resource of having business accounts. You get access to data. Data tells you a story. It helps you iterate and improve your business. I'm going to show you Instagram because we only have time for one. But if you go to the insights report on Instagram, you're going to see these are all of the different metrics that Instagram has on the platform. Okay, so people can like your post, right? They can comment on it. This button, really important. This is the share button. This means that a user either shared your post to someone in their messages, so to a friend or whoever and they're following, or they shared it in their stories. If they shared in their stories, just put 2 and 2 together. They're sharing your content in their stories, which has the highest engagement, right? So the reach and like the potential for this is extremely valuable. If you're getting free exposure from your, followers to their stories and their audience, you're reaching their highest engaged users. The last thing, this is the saved button. This means that someone found your content useful, helpful, educational, they wanted to go back to it later. They basically archived it. So this also tells you, this content that I put out, obviously someone found very helpful and useful. You can see how many people visited your profile after looking at that post. And then this is the total sum of how many people came across your post. This is great. These matter more because these are engagement metrics, okay? 54,000 people might have seen your post and may never go to your account again. These are people that are actually engaged with your posts, and engagement creates conversion, creates relationships, creates trust. So just something to remember there. And then you have access again to insights. Your reports on Instagram, you're gonna see are broken down into 3 different tabs: content, activity, and audience. So you can learn, get a really specific profile of who your demographic is when they're most active on your platform. So going back to the question earlier, when is ideal to post? It's gonna be different on every account, and this is gonna change over time. So you wanna make sure that you're going into your insights reports and looking at what times and days people are most active on your account, so you can schedule your content around that time. This is just an example of kind of like a little slide I put together for one of my clients after analyzing all of their content from a 30-day period and pulling different trends that we got from our highest performing content. So because they're a day spa, people wanted more treatment videos, they wanted to learn more about the team, and they loved the colorful images we posted of treatments. And then this is just an example of the grid. It'll be in order of highest performing posts. And like I said, you can sort it by engagement, by reach, whatever metric you want to look it up by. Okay, number 1 question here. I know everyone is like, I want to know how much money I'm making with my ads. What is my ROI? The number 1 way that you can guarantee measuring ROI on an ad is measuring a targeted ad. So you want to have what I did for one of my clients that was super successful, and I highly recommend trying this, is creating a custom code for the social media channel that you're putting the ad on and offering a discount or promo or something that can be used to redeem how many people came from that channel. So I'm going to show you one example of how effective this can really work on Instagram. These are some tips that you can go back to later on how to promote successful ads. This is an example of the one that we ran. We put $150 into it, which is not a lot, and we ran it for 15 days or 14 days. So basically people had to buy 2 skincare products and they got 1 for free. Keep in mind this spa, their average skincare ticket is $75. So we had very high expectations for this ad. Okay, so this is the performance results here. The total runtime, 15 days, total ad spend 150. The total redemptions were 131 people. We don't have hundreds of thousands of followers. We have a little under 3,000 right now. So let's just show how much like this can actually do. Total discounted. So we have the reports here. This is the total amount that we actually like gave away. So that 1 free product we had, $9,697. The average skincare product is 75. So we multiplied that by 2 because people had to buy 2 to get the free product. The estimated revenue from our 3 locations was almost 20 grand. So our ROI on that was about $9,303 when you subtracted the total discounted and the total amount we put in. Huge. So really great way to guarantee you're making your money back on your ad. This is a really great way to do that. Okay, so next steps here. Creating a content calendar is really important. It keeps your content organized. It keeps you on track. It allows you to see what is being posted on each channel. And it just gives you some kind of structure rather than kind of like winging it, which I know a lot of people do, and it becomes very stressful. I'm going to show you one platform that many of you may have heard of. It's called Hootsuite. I love it because it's super user-friendly and you can integrate a lot of different platforms on it like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and you get access to other features as well, which are really helpful. This is the dashboard here for one of my other clients. So you can see at the top when you're logged in, you'll see Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and you can flip between all of the different channels. And all you have to do is click new post and choose the channel that you want to post it on. And you can schedule it at whatever time you want, put in your caption, put in your hashtags, any links, graphics, everything you can do in Hootsuite. And that way your team can see what is being posted. You can also answer all of the messages that you're getting on each social media platform in one inbox on Hootsuite. So you can not have to worry about flipping between 5 different apps. You can do it all in one place. In addition to that, the last thing that I'll leave you with is it gives you access to an analytics report. Now, there is a paid version of Hootsuite that is more advanced that you'll actually get access to post performance. I recommend doing it if you want everything in one place. It's definitely going to be worth it. But this is all of your reports. What's nice is if you're working for a team, you can actually download the reports into like PDF files or spreadsheets and actually like choose the dates and compare, you know, one period to another. I have some additional
quick question for you, Jackie, real quick. So when you do schedule social posts, and I'm not sure if this is like information readily available, but do you happen to know if you get deprioritized, like those posts get deprioritized if they're scheduled versus something you live post? Like I wasn't sure if the platforms could tell the difference.
Deprioritized as in like you won't get as much like exposure?
Yes.
No, I mean, the algorithm is going to recognize the post regardless of whether it's scheduled or not.
Okay.
I would prioritize, like I said, live content and stories content right now on Facebook and Instagram above content that's being posted on your feed. It just has higher engagement.
Got it.
Yeah. So I have some additional resources on here for you before we jump into Q&A. The last thing that I wanted to do though, before going over the resources really quick, is if we can just put in that last poll. It's basically just asking you about some of the challenges that you have with social media. I'm just curious to learn a little bit about the group. So your biggest challenge managing your social media content. We are like perfect on time. I think your audio is off, Steph.
Oh no, perfect. All right, sorry about that. I was like definitely muted. All right, guys, you have 3 more seconds to respond. So 3, 2, and 1.
Let's see.
Oh, this is a close. This is a very, very close one.
Yeah, not knowing what to post, not having enough time. Creating original content is definitely time intensive. Yeah, these are great. This is so helpful for me. And please do connect with me on LinkedIn. I have a new series I just launched on my Instagram account where I'm basically bringing in people from the community and giving them like just some free advice every Monday from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. So if you want to be a guest, connect with me. We'll make that happen. Just some additional resources for you. So Gary Vaynerchuk, he's an expert in content marketing. I highly recommend checking out his blog. I highly recommend checking out his new series that is going to be ending after the COVID social distancing is over. It's called Morning Tea with Gary V. It's on Facebook every day around like 9:30. He brings on people from like all over and gives them like free consulting advice. And he is very candid and just an incredible like expert in this stuff. Next thing, Planoly. If you are just focused on Instagram and you don't need to pay for Hootsuite for all of the social media channels and you just want to focus on Planoly, it's my favorite scheduling system. What it's nice about it is when you're scheduling, it arranges your content when you're planning it as a 3x3 grid. So you can see exactly how things are going to look on your feed before they're actually posted. Definitely recommend checking that out. The last thing is Canva. So for those people that voted just now, your biggest, like challenge is either not having enough time or creating original content. You're going to love Canva because it's basically the most user-friendly tool. It's what I'm using right now to use it for this presentation. I create all of my clients' graphics from it, all of my animated posts, presentations, pitch decks, email newsletters, everything. And there's thousands of free templates that you can build off of and customize and make it your own for your brand. And it's only like, I want to say like $14, $15 a month. It's more than paid for itself. And then that is it, guys. That is the final slide. So thank you so much for coming. I wish that we had more time because I love talking about this stuff, but this is my information. Please stay in touch with me. Thank you, Stephanie, for making this whole event super seamless and easy for me. And thank you again to everyone in the audience. Find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to stay in touch.